probably the most interesting build I've done yet. This is an analog-styled mini PC built in the DA6, an open frame case that is one of the highest quality chassis I've yet to use. Let's take a look at the parts I decided to go with in this build, and then I'll show you exactly how I put it all together. Starting with the CPU, this is the Ryzen 7 7800X3D. And look, do I even really need to say why I'm going with the CPU? It's the best gaming CPU you can get, period. Now, it's on the newest platform, the AM5 platform, so upgradability is not going to be any sort of problem if you ever want to do that in the future, and it's also incredibly efficient. Now, if you're looking for just a pure productivity build, maybe I'd go with something like the 7700X, or if money is absolutely no object and you want something that's great for both productivity and gaming, then I would go and look at the 7950X3D. That's what I use in my personal build. But for everybody else, if you're just looking for the best gaming CPU, look no further than this one. Now, as for the motherboard we're going to be plugging this into, I'm going to be going with my personal favorite, the Asus Strix B650EI. Now, I've said this in a lot of my videos now, but this is a very well-balanced board as far as pricing and features go. Although, we are getting some better options for budget boards nowadays, like this one here from ASRock. Still, you got plenty of I/O and headers for any typical gaming PC, especially with this case where we really only need to plug in the power button and a USB 3.1 connector for the case I/O. This board also has two M.2 slots, and I've got a terabyte drive from Samsung in the front one. For RAM, I got this 32GB kit from Team Group. Now, this is DDR5 7200. I would actually recommend 6000. Anything over that is really kind of a waste for a gaming build. Now, I have seen some benefits to faster RAM for productivity applications, although stability isn't really guaranteed here. These have been stable for me at 7200, but the internet has me believing that I'm kind of the outlier here, as many have had stability issues. Anyway, like I said, I would recommend 6000 and focus on getting the largest capacity that your budget allows. So now that our board is prepped, let's move on to the case. Like I said at the top, this is the Streetcom DA6 XL. An incredibly high quality open frame case. It's got this continuous stainless steel tubes used to frame the entire body, and it also serves as the feet and the handles. So there's actually two sizes of this, the standard and the XL, which is the same footprint, just taller to accommodate larger GPUs like we're going to be using in this build. But you do have some flexibility as to where to put your case I/O. There's actually 3 positions for it because, well, the case orientation is kind of up to you, right? You can have it so the motherboard is closer to the bottom, which I guess I would consider that the default position, or you can flip it, I guess, upside down to where the motherboard is closer to the top. For me, I'm actually pretty happy with the default here. I'm going to have my motherboard closer to the bottom, and I kind of like having the power button and the USB-C underneath it as well because it just kind of hides it, and I think it looks a little bit cleaner. And so the first thing I'm going to do here is grab the prepped motherboard and then align it with the 4 standoffs and then secure it down with the 4 included screws. After that, we're going to need a PCI Express riser cable for our GPU, and let's plug it into the motherboard side, then we can loop it around to the back and secure it to the pre-installed brackets. I actually had to take the clip off of mine in order for it to fit, because unfortunately the riser cable that's shipped with the DA6 now isn't the one they originally planned for. So if you're looking to upgrade your PC and want to buy used or sell some of your parts to offset the costs of your new PC, make sure to check out this video's sponsor, Jawa.gg. So one of my upcoming builds is going to be using an RTX 3080. And I was scrolling through Jawa's listings when I found this exact model 3080 for $415. This is a really good way to get the best value out of your build, especially if you have a tighter budget. Now, there's a few ways that you can save even more here. First, you can get $10 off just by using my code DJ10 and then follow the link in the description. And if you're upgrading from an existing gaming PC, you can take your existing GPU and sell it on Jawa's site. Now, the fastest and simplest way is to get an instant offer and sell it directly to Jawa. You just fill out the model and condition of your card, and Jawa will give you an instant offer. Then you ship it to them, and most sellers get paid within a single business day. Or you can list it yourself if you want full control over the pricing. If you don't have the time or you just don't feel like building it yourself, you can buy a complete system, or if you're up for the task, but you just might need a little bit of help troubleshooting your build and get feedback on your part selection, you can join their over 10,000 member Discord. So if you want to save some money on your next build, definitely go and check out Jawa.gg. Usually I'd save the GPU installation for last, but in this build, it's a little bit easier just to do it early. I'm going with the Gigabyte Aero 4090. So I really like the all white look of this one, but it's also a massive 342 millimeters in length. So it's gonna fill the case really nicely. Now, I don't think I really need to go over the benchmarks for a 4090. It's a pretty well-known card at this point. What it comes down to is that if your budget allows for it, then you're gonna have the best possible gaming experience available today. Now, in order to install the GPU, I actually had to take off the universal brackets that were pre-installed. That way I had a little bit more room to lower the GPU into the case. I also need to remove the power cable connector. Now you can adjust the GPU position on an X and Y axis, so that's left to right and also closer or further from the motherboard. I actually set the riser cable and GPU bracket to the lowest position, but even at that lowest position, the card was still too large to resecure the power cable connector, which, whatever, I can still manage the power cord to keep it all clean. All things considered though, not too difficult to install this. The hardest part was fitting my hand into a line to secure the PCI Express bracket. For the power supply unit, I went with the ASUS ROG Loki SFXL 750 watt Platinum power supply. Now this case can fit up to an ATX power supply, but I decided to go with something a little bit smaller just so I had a little bit more room for the dials. Now this being a Platinum power supply, this is only one level below the highest efficiency rating, so this is quite good. It also comes with braided cables, which I really like, but I'd probably say the biggest reason I picked this was, honestly, purely the aesthetics, because you're gonna be able to see it all the time, because it's an open frame case. And this has got to be the best looking power supply out there. Although with this configuration, I could see a lot of people wanting to go with an 850 watt power supply at least, and they do make a version of this that is 850 watts. With that said, I have been using 750 watts in all of my previous builds that have an 4090 and either 7800X3D or 7950X3D, and they've all been perfectly fine for the small form factor PCs that I've built. And now's as good a time as any to plug in our power connectors for the motherboard and CPU, then the case I/O. So that's the power button and USB. Now let's set up the centerpiece of this entire build here, and that's these Streacom VU1 dials. So these are actually inspired by 1800s audio equipment. So you've got a moving coil and an e-ink display. So you can put whatever image and customize whatever you want to monitor on it. Now, when you look at them in real life, they have a much more natural look than a typical, like a display would. They're not emitting any light, but are still high enough contrast so that they're easy to see. But they do have an RGB light to illuminate them at night if you were to need that. I think these look super cool, and they're a very unique way to monitor your temps or whatever else. But you don't necessarily have to do what I'm doing here, like installing them into a DA6 or any case in that matter. They can stand on their own, and they also include some feet so they have a slight angle to them. But what else is unique is the software. So this is using an open source platform so that they can natively be used with any application. And so instead of having a standard application to control them, there's a server app. If all that sounds super complicated, you don't really have to worry about that. If you just want them up and running to monitor GPU and CPU temperatures, things like that, you can just follow their 3-step setup process and be up and running just like I have them here in 5 to 10 minutes. So there's a thread on the back and the bottom so that you can mount them to things. Obviously I'm using the one on the back so that I can mount it to one of the universal brackets at the front here. What I would say is that if you are planning to do something similar, definitely want to install these before the power supply unit, because there's just hardly any room for me to fit my hand in there to screw them in. So I was able to manage and figure it out, but I would highly recommend doing it before the power supply unit. And with those installed, the last thing we have to do here is install our massive Noctua NH-D15. So this is a way overkill cooler for the CPU, especially considering how efficient the CPU is. But one thing I really like about it is just how quiet it is. So this CPU cooler is definitely going to stick out a little bit, but considering we basically have unlimited clearance because, there's no side panels, and the VU1 dials are going to be sticking out a little bit, I feel like it protruding makes it feel a little bit more balanced. Also, installation is super simple. We just need to place down some plastic spacers, install the mounting brackets, apply some thermal paste, lower and install the cooler, clip on the fan, and with that final piece, the build is complete. So this build turned out incredibly cool in my opinion. And honestly, I really wasn't sure how it was going to turn out whenever I was planning it all, because, it could have went really wrong. The whole mix of parts here just kind of seems like it shouldn't work, but seeing it all come together, very happy with it. Let me know what you guys think about this build in the comments. And if you enjoyed the video, let me know by subscribing to the channel. I'm planning to do a build like this once a week. So anyway, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a great rest of your day.